Hello, my name is Matt Wills and I am the Asia Specialist here at Peter Harrington Rare Books. And today I'm here to talk to you about two very different books from our recent China acquisitions. Two that tell very different stories but each have their own very interesting, very attractive features and things you may or may not have seen before. So first I'm going to talk to you about this. This book is an edition of the first bilingual edition, Manchu and Han Chinese edition of the 4 books of Confucianism. So you'll have heard of the Analects, a staple text of Confucian thought. The Analects and 3 other texts, including the Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Mean, and the Mencius. These form the core 4 books of Confucian thought. They were compiled in ancient China many centuries ago, and since then, for over 2,000 years, they've been essentially kind of core mandated reading for scholars, for officials, and for literati in China. So to fast forward to 1644, so the fall of the Ming Dynasty, the Ming Emperor is deposed from office and forced to flee by an invading group of people from the North China steppes. And these were, of course, the Manchus, who went on to found the last Chinese dynasty, the Qing dynasty, which officially reigned from 1644 to 1911. So the Manchus spoke Manchu. Chinese was not their native language, and so when they arrived they had to, of course, do all the normal things that you have to do with a regime. You have to set up effective governance. They had an emperor, and they needed their officials to be able to interpret the canonical texts of Confucianism in order to essentially undertake good governance of the realm. There was no translation at that point, and so they produced this. So this is, as I said, a bilingual edition of the Analects and the 3 other major Confucian texts. And let's have a look at the page. You'll perhaps see what I'm talking about a little bit more. So you can see, if I hold it up here, that you'll see the Chinese characters, which you'll recognize here, and then you'll see the Manchu equivalent running down the page as well. This edition was published, this particular edition dates from the late 19th century, but this project was completed and first published in 1755 after a multi-decade project overseen by someone called Ortai, who was a very prominent, perhaps the most powerful official in Qing China, in the Qing Imperial Court. He got a team of lexicographers and officials and scholars together to produce this edition that aimed for untold levels of accuracy, that really wrestled with some of the knotty problems of how to translate key Confucian ideas into a completely new language, and this was the result. As I said, it was published in 1755, the first edition. It was what's called a palace edition, so it was published within the imperial court. And then later on, commercial publishers published their own edition, and this was one of the commercial editions published in the late 19th century. Now, in kind of Western print culture, we're used to thinking of first editions as being special, by far the best. In Chinese print culture, because of the abject rarity of so many books like this, you can see this one is very, very delicate. You can see the case has been preserved in quite good condition, but is still looking quite fragile. Because of the rarity of these books, this means that any edition, whether it's the first edition or later editions, are generally quite scarce. So this one, while published in 1888, is still a very special book indeed. In total, there's just over a dozen of copies of different editions of this book in libraries around the world. That's editions from the 1755 one to ones published before the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911. So this book is quite uncommon. You can see our copy here. As I said, it's quite fragile, but it's really quite well preserved. The text still very, very sharp, and really allowing us to get a feeling for how the Qing approached that quite kind of knotty problem of taking over control of a completely new culture and such a large country such as China, and trying to instill effective governance. And so this is a very nice book. You can see this on our website and others like it as well. You can see it's very fragile there. It's pleasingly got the original bone toggles. These are things which you often find missing. And also the original title label as well. It's a very nice little view into the Qing court and how they approached taking power and traditional Chinese philosophy. The second book I'm going to talk about today is this one here. This is a guidebook to the Chinese city of Qingdao, and this was published in 1957. Now, if you go on our website, or if you know much about print culture to do with travel, you'll know that there were lots and lots of guidebooks produced for European travellers who went to Asia and to other holiday destinations throughout the 19th and the 20th centuries. But this is quite different because, of course, it's in Chinese and it's aiming for a domestic Chinese tourism market. And why I particularly like this is because this book was published in 1957, 8 years after Mao and the Communist Party had taken power. Now, this is not what we normally associate with print culture or books under communism. This is very, very lively. You see, so Qingdao is a popular tourist resort. It still is now. It has lovely beaches, it has great sun, and you can see these people on the cover. They're having a great time there. These are Chinese leisure travellers. And so I love this because it shows us that even after the Communist Party had come to power, there were still these urbanites who were looking for that kind of summer getaway, that escape to cool off by the sea. Another really interesting feature about this book, I mean, if you look inside, it has all the usual things we'd associate with a travel book. So it has maps, for example. It has discussions of the best places to go. So there's discussion of Laoshan here. Laoshan's a really nice scenic spot, some nice photographs there as well. But something which is quite surprising to find, I think, is that this book also has adverts in it. And this is, again, something we don't really associate with communist print culture. Conventional wisdom tells us that advertising doesn't exist under communism. This book shows us that that is a little short-sighted, that view. So, for example, if we turn to the inside page, we'll see a lovely colourful advertisement for Qingdao beer. Qingdao Pijiao, something you can still buy now. We have other advertisements. What do we have here? We have something for a pharmacy at the back there. Again, a very lively, so this is clearly done by someone who's an advertising professional. It's very, very eye-catching. Others we have here, let's have a look. Just got to find them. Oh yes, these lovely red ones here, advertising department stores or places where you could buy all the different things you might need, like pens or bathing suits or violins, anything which the urban consumer might need at the time. So this is a really kind of wonderful book. There were 10,000 copies originally printed. Now there's only a handful available. And that's because I think in the late Mao period, during the Cultural Revolution, that leisure travel really was heavily frowned upon, and so books like this would probably have ceased to be useful. This is a really nicely preserved copy with all the maps in a splendid condition, and the advertisements very bright and colourful. So there we are, leisure travel under Maoist socialism. What an interesting historical artifact. Thank you very much for watching, and to look at these books or others of a similarly interesting, please go to our website. Thank you very much.